Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks. Oh, boy. The top 10 worst hires ever in college football. Total disasters. And this is going to get a little rough. If you notice, two of the pictures on that thumbnail happen to have a big old power T on them. So you know I'm going to have an opinion on this. But we're going to cover all the top 10 worst ones. And this is actually a top 25. I will quickly go over some between 11 and 25 that deserve mention. And this could get a little spicy today. So if you're somebody that's sensitive and, you know, every little thing bothers you, I understand it's 2025. This is probably not going to be the video for you. So, humongous, tell them.
Just walk away.
Yeah, I just want to walk away because there's one particular coach I may end up talking about that's not on this list that caused a lot of carnage in my world, and I'll definitely be talking about him. I just can't help it. Now, this is on CBS Sports by John Talty. He actually has the top 25 worst coaching hires this century. He set up 4 categories. Did the hire make sense in the first place? Did the coach's predecessor have success? Does the program have the resources to win, and why didn't it work? And like I said, we're just going to kind of skim through some of these that y'all probably not going to care about. Mike Loxley of New Mexico, 2-26. Enough said there. Steve Adazio, Colorado State, 4-12, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Nebraska, Mike Riley, you know, people care about Nebraska. He's 19-19. Not so good. Although I'm surprised Scott Frost is not on that list, who I thought, I thought Scott Frost was a great hire. He came from UCF, undefeated season. Came up Nebraska, and it was just a disaster. I can't believe he's not on the list. And he says here, just barely missed the list. Jeff Collins, Georgia Tech, 10-28. Chris Ash, Rutgers. Now, here's one that's worth mentioning. Charlie Strong, 16-21 at Texas. I thought he was going to be pretty darn good because he had had a lot of success at Louisville, going to the Sugar Bowl, back-to-back top 15 finishes. Just didn't work out for him. I think Tennessee took a look at him as well. Brian Harsin, that's a current guy who really struggled. He didn't get along with the culture down there. He was out of Boise State. It just wasn't working out. And they got rid of Gus Malzahn too early, I thought, and paid him $21 million to leave. I thought Gus was really good. He darn near won an Natty, but they punted him. And Harsin was just, it was awful there, really. Then just a few more before we get down to the top 10. Carl Durrell at Colorado, 8-15. Kevin Sumlin, here's a guy that I thought would have success. Johnny Manziel kind of made him there at Texas A&M, Johnny Football, and then he struggled at Arizona, which, you know, Mike Jinks, Bowling Green. All right, here's one, Willie Taggart. Boy, every time you bring up the name Willie Taggart, the FSU fans freak out. I mean, that guy really upset that fan base. You don't go 9-12. Well, you didn't back then anyway. Coming off, 2-10 this year after going undefeated the year before, Mike Norvell is – he's not on the hot seat because they owe him a fortune. You know, they owe him Jimbo Fisher money, but Willie Taggart really gets the FSU fans going. They did not like him. And they got him away from Oregon, which just didn't work out so well. Darrell Hazel at Purdue. You're going to see a lot of Purdue in this, and a lot of Colorado, John Embry, because, gosh, Purdue again, Ryan Walters, Greg Robinson, 5-37. Woo, what's the asterisk for? Well, anyway, now we're getting into the top 10. This is not where you want to be. My team, Tennessee, we've got 2 participants in the top 10. 2. Jeez. Let's start out with one, Derek the Dooley. 15-21. Now, he inherited a decent team. If you'll remember, of course, we had Philip Fulmer, who had a great run in the 90s, won a national title, was always in the top 10. Probably would have won 2 or 3 natties if not for Steve Spurrier and his Gators. But we had brought in Lane Kiffin, and he had a pretty decent first year. People were excited about him, treated him great. He brought in this whole team, had his dad with him, the defensive coordinator, Monty, and everything was looking good. And then Lane, in the middle of the night, the day before National Signing Day, decides to take the USC job. He was the 7th pick because they were getting ready to get hammered by the NCAA, and he was too stupid to realize it. So Lane takes a big old knife, stabs us in the back, and then pours about 10 buckets of salt on top of it by trying to take all our recruits with him. Took the whole time. It was just ridiculous what the guy did. And we were stuck. So we went and hired Derek Dooley out of Louisiana Tech because he had a last name people recognized. Vince Dooley, his daddy, out of Georgia. And he was like 4-7 at Louisiana Tech. I remember my brother Junebug was like, why are we hiring a guy that's 4-7? And I was like, because we're screwed. This is the worst time in the world for a coach to leave. Nobody leaves the day before National Signing Day. Nobody, except Lane Kiffin, you punk.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
We wind up with Derek Dooley, who he was also the athletic director down there. I guess that was some big deal at Louisiana Tech. Anyway, he was a freaking disaster. He didn't want to recruit. He didn't want to work hard. And 15-21 is what he wound up being until he finally got fired. And then we brought in Butch Jones, who 5-star hearts and all that crap, but he's not on this list. At least he had some victories, and he had Josh Dobbs, and he recruited well. He just never could win an important game. Number 9, Ron Turner out of FIU. I mean, we talking about Florida International? Anyway, I'm not too concerned about FIU. Now here's a very interesting one. Les Miles, who won a natty at LSU. He was known as the Mad Hatter. He's the guy that would go after it on 4th and whatever all the time. He never knew what kind of crap he was going to pull. Thus, the moniker of the Mad Hatter. Went 3-18 at Kansas. I mean, you talking about a bad hire. And his personality, he was not easy to get along with. I think Louisiana was glad to see him go. And here comes Tennessee again, Mr. Jeremy Pruitt, 5-19. Holy shnikes. Was he 5-19? Oh, no, I know what. They washed out his record. They took a bunch of his victories away because he was paying players $64,000 in a Chick-fil-A bag, not a McDonald's bag. And here, of course, we got to hear all about Greg Schiano and how we didn't hire that guy who was basically a mean Butch Jones. And he had a stint down there at Tampa in the NFL, and the players couldn't stand him. I mean, absolutely could not stand the guy. He was rude as hell. There was all kinds of guys from the NFL who used to go to Rutgers and try to scout his players. He treated them like garbage. And we were supposed to hire Greg Schiano, and boy, the national media wore us out over it. Almost hired Mike Leach, which wouldn't have been a bad hire, honestly. But anyway, we wound up getting Pruitt. And he got multi-year show cause penalties, tried to, BS that he didn't pay him when he did, according to everybody that was involved. And Tennessee fired 9 coaches, collected all the evidence, handed it over to the NCAA. Donde Plowman came out and just told it like it was.
We begin with breaking news on the UT campus and the firing of head football coach Jeremy Pruitt. The story broke at noon, and that the school was firing the 3-year head coach for his role in significant and serious rules violations.
The information presented to us indicates serious violations of NCAA rules. They occurred, and that these serious infractions warrant immediate action.
So, anyway, there we go. Tennessee, 2 of the top 10. Then we go to Ty Willingham, Washington, 11-37. He had been at Notre Dame. It just didn't work out there at Washington. 0-12, his final. Oh, my God, he was 0-12. Ugh. Charlie Weiss, another Notre Dame guy at Kansas. Kansas is where a lot of coaches go to end their career. 6-22, Notre Dame coach. I was surprised. I thought he would do well there, or at least some level. Chad Morris at Arkansas, 4-18. It's just awful. He was 0-14 in the SEC, which is just tragic. Then a guy by the name of Ellis Johnson at Southern Miss, 0-12. And then 2 guys who never coached. They're tied for first. Mike Price at Alabama and Michael Haywood at Pittsburgh, 0-0. Said it's impossible to make a worse hire than having to fire your coach before he ever coached a game. Alabama and Pittsburgh did both. Price, who came out of Washington State, I remember him winning a lot there. And when he came down to Alabama, I think he had some serious issues. Anyway, behavior at a charity golf tournament involving ladies that like to dance for money. And Robert Witt said at the time that his firing, his mistake has severely hurt our university and will hurt our university for years to come. He didn't even coach a day. And then Haywood made a jump from Miami, Ohio to Pittsburgh, but lasted only a few weeks after he was arrested and charged with, oh boy, you can read that. So there's your 2 worst ones. I don't know if you can be the worst hires, though, if you never coached and lost a bunch of games, but just as far as embarrassment to the university, that's pretty bad. So I guess that's they won by default. But anyway, it stinks that my team, Tennessee, has 2 of the top 10. And I blame Lane Kiffin almost entirely for that. Almost entirely. Had he not pulled his stunt, he could have been here, had success, just like he's done at Ole Miss. But instead, he goes out to USC. They got tons of NCAA problems, lost tons of scholarships. Their team nosedived. He got fired on the tarmac, wasn't even allowed to come back with the team, which was hilarious. And then he was out in the wilderness, and Nick Saban, home for misfit coaches, brought him in, offensive coordinator, yelled and screamed at him on the sidelines for a couple of years. Then he went down to, I don't know, Florida Atlantic Community College, somewhere down there in Florida, coached there for a few years. Then Ole Miss finally picked him up, and it's worked out great for Ole Miss. Eventually, he'll job jump to somewhere bigger, but he basically crapped away 10 years of his life and his career and cost himself probably $50 million, something like that, and became really a bit of a pariah in the SEC for years because of what he did to Tennessee. A lot of people, they don't take kindly to that kind of crap. It was I don't even want to compare it to Nico's. Nico's a 19, 20-year-old kid. Lane Kiffin was an adult. So I blame Lane a lot more for what he did than what Nico did. Nico, just made a terrible decision that young people sometimes make. Lane, you're an adult. You shouldn't have done that. I'm not letting it go either. So you can come in the comments, you should just let that. No, I'll let it go when I feel like it. And it won't be today. So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit that button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video. YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk J. Be glad if you don't have a coach on that list.
You have to not lose the game before you can ever win the game.